Welcome to Haunting Live Podcast, a place where we bring a new paranormal guest each episode to share their journey and experiences. For more Haunting Live real experiences, be sure to follow us on our social on Instagram, Thread, Facebook, and also Blue Sky. And don't forget to also check us out on our official website, HauntingLivePodcast.com.
Check out Divine Oracle Podcast with your hosts Gypsy Lady Eva and Brother Chris as they discuss spiritual topics and current events. Sit back and listen. Podbean and then with YouTube.
Hello, fans of the paranormal. This is Yolanta Meri, co-host of the Haunting Live podcast with our host, Trevor Bishop. And today we have ourselves a wonderful guest, a psychic medium with lifelong paranormal experiences, including meeting Bigfoot and fairies, as well as other elementals. She doesn't just talk to spirit people, but she also teaches, runs her own podcast, and does tarot readings. Today with us is Daniella Martin of HuskyLight.com.
Hi.
Hi, Daniella.
Nice to be here.
Great. Thank you for taking your time out to be here on Haunting Live this episode. So nice to have you along with us to share some of your stories and experiences. So like she was saying, you have some experiences in different areas. First, can you sort of tell us a bit about your background and how you got into the field?
How I got into the field. Okay. I've pretty much been psychic all my life. But obviously most of us tend to block it out or not believe it or try and bury it in normal life, and that's what I did for a long time. And then I had a spontaneous Kundalini awakening in around 2012. That was a result, it was actually a result of trauma in my life, which is what tends to kick these sort of things off. But I didn't actually realize for quite a while what was going on with me. It was scary. It was awful. It was not this wonderful, gentle awakening. It was pretty awful. I did get it figured out eventually, but as I figured things out, my guides and spirits were sort of look over here, trying to point me in the right direction of what was happening with me. And as I began to learn and realize what was happening, there was times when I thought I was schizophrenic. There was times when I just really didn't understand. It was horrendous. But as they pointed me in the right direction, my business, I had a cake making business. I used to make wedding cakes. I was on the front of wedding magazines and things like that back in the UK. I was in a relationship. Everything just fell apart, as it does when your life needs to change. It was like, this is the end of this life. You're not doing this anymore. We need to change the direction that you're going in. And that's literally, everything was destroyed. Couldn't do it anymore. And I remember screaming at the guides and angels one night and saying, well, what the hell am I supposed to do now? What am I supposed to? Everything's falling apart. And a very clear message came through, was go on YouTube. Extremely clear. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do on YouTube? What the hell? And I started going on YouTube blogging, basically. There was not a lot of other people going through the awakening process back in 2012, or it was a lot harder to find. So I was basically going on YouTube going, I'm seeing numbers and I'm hearing voices and all these synchronicities are happening. And is anybody else experiencing this? Can anybody else help? And people started coming through saying, yes, I'm going through that too. And I ended up helping people in the end, guiding them through it. The more knowledgeable I became, the more downloads I had, the more I could help other people. So that's basically how that started. And it's just gone on from there, really. I'd had a little bit of a break from YouTube past 2 or 3 years, mainly because my partner's not been well, but he's getting better. And so I'm getting back into things again. But yeah, that's basically in a nutshell what was happening.
You said that you were experiencing paranormal stuff your whole life. Now, after this Kundalini awakening, were you able to look back at some of your younger years and really understand and appreciate? And what were some of those things that you were experiencing before that maybe you weren't making the connections with?
Yeah, there was a lot of things that I wasn't making connections with beforehand. And then when I looked back on it, I was like, I was psychic all along. I just didn't realize I was psychic or had a connection. I'm Rh negative as well, which I found out as well, which I didn't know, which is a whole other story probably. But first thing was probably when I was about 10. I used to speak to my Barbie dolls before that when I was really small, and they used to speak back to me. I don't know what they said, but I know damn well that they were speaking back to me and moving. And then when I was about 10 years old, my bedroom was sort of side onto the house, and it was a semi-detached house. And there was an old guy that had lived next door to us. His name was Mr. Grundy, and he died. And a friend staying over one night, we had a sleepover. And I remember looking through my bedroom window, which went through to his bedroom window next door. He'd already passed. House was empty, and there he was, stood in the window, having a look. So yeah, that was the first thing that happened. After that, and I think my mum was psychic as well, but she hid it very well, because back then, that generation didn't really speak about things like that. But she'd lost both of her sons, and she would hear them and see them. But again, I never really clicked on. Major thing that happened in my early 20s, I lived in a haunted house. Just moved into beautiful little terraced house, rented in a place called Wiltshire in the UK, which is absolutely stunningly beautiful. My fiance at the time was in the RAF, and our first house together, and it's awesome, tiny little place. And anyway, he used to do a lot of nights down at the local base. And it started off with, we moved in, we started doing up the place. That starts to stir up things, obviously. Didn't realize it. And I'd be on the phone to my mom or something on the old Bakelite phones in the living room, and I could look into the kitchen and I'd be talking to her, and then I'd be like, Mom, the kettle's boiling. Why is the kettle boiling? I didn't turn the kettle on. Why is it boiling? Oh my God. That did that constantly. We had the TV turning itself on and off without anybody going near it. Then it started to reach a crescendo. So it got worse as time went on. I don't know how many months.
Oh, wow. Now, did your former partner, who was again, this is for those that don't know what the RAF is. This is in England. This is the Royal Air Force.
Royal Air Force.
So it is the military. Did your military partner experience some of this as well? And what was his take on it?
Yes. Yeah, he did experience some of it as well. And he took it very well, actually, because we were both into watching haunted stuff or strange programs, or we were quite open to things like that. I just didn't, and at first, if the kettle's boiling, it's like, it's not such a big deal. It's like, oh, something's going on. It's quite exciting. But as time went on, it did get worse. The oven in the kitchen, which came with the house, the cooker, it was already furnished when we moved in. Sorry, I have to use different words. So the cooker would turn itself on and off, the oven part of it. We'd come down in the morning and it'd be on. So we'd have to turn it off again. So now we're getting into it. Well, that's pretty dangerous. That shouldn't be happening. And as I say, it got to a crescendo one particular night when he'd gone off to work. I'm at home on my own. The kettle had started boiling. The oven had already come on its own. Then the upstairs bathroom tap came on. And I run upstairs. I turn the tap off. And it comes on again on its own. So I'm phoning my partner, my fiance at work, and I'm like, the bathroom tap, the sink tap's coming on its own. And he's like, well, turn it off. And I'm like, I'm turning it off. It's coming on again. That did that 2 or 3 times. And then one of the bath taps came on at the same time, by which point I was completely a freaking mess. By that point, I'd really emotionally got worked up, scared, everything else. I actually phoned him and demanded that he came home. I cannot remember what happened the rest of that night. It obviously calmed down. And then we were speaking to our neighbours next door, and we sort of admitted to them that there's just strange stuff going on in the house. Turned out that there used to be an old guy that lived in the house before us who had died in the house. He had lived there all his life with his mother. So he'd never left his mum. She died. He'd grown old in the house. He died. And one of the things he used to do to keep warm in the winter was to put that cooker on overnight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was definitely him, the spirit of him. And we were like, okay, what do we do? And because we'd been repainting and renovating and doing stuff in the house, my fiance suggested that I just talk to him, that I just say, hey, I'm sorry we're living in your house. We very much respect you. We love this place. Yes, I'm changing the colours. Yes, I'm changing the scheme. Please respect that we're here now and stop with the craziness. Stop with the craziness, please. It did start to calm down after that. So that's all. Maybe that's all he needed, was that confirmation, or that, yeah.
Well, honestly, when we have clients of our own and we actually go into places like yours that would be a haunted location and investigate, and they're having troubles like you were having, that is one of the things we try to tell clients that we have is, just talk to them as your normal everyday person, because sometimes, like you say, that's all they want, is just to be acknowledged. They want to be seen or heard. And sometimes that's all it takes, is to say, hey, I hear you, I see you, and we're here now. So that's all it takes sometimes. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I've wondered sort of since then with other hauntings or things that I've seen, are they still living in that house? Are they on a different parallel? Was this guy walking around his home as somebody who'd passed over, and wondering what on earth we were doing in there, in his home, his property? Yeah. Do you remember that film with Nicole Kidman? I can't remember what it was called.
The Others, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love that movie.
I wonder if sometimes it is like that, where they think they're still alive and they're just living out their life, and then suddenly they've got other people encroaching on their property and their space. So
that would make sense. And that's like a little sixth sense as well, right? It's just maybe there isn't that knowledge. They haven't been able to.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to ask, because you're from the UK. Do you have any experience with little people or fairies or any of the other Celtic lore that is very well known in that region?
Yes. During the awakening, during the Kundalini awakening, when I'm seeing and hearing and everything else, I took the dogs out for a walk one day. I did see a fairy. It ran straight past me across my feet. We were out in the forest walking, and I'm dogs are running off, and I'm walking along, and suddenly this little fairy just ran straight across. It was extremely quick. I only just caught it, but I was just stood there going, that was a fairy. I've just seen a fairy. I also have I would have to really try and dig out the picture. But I have a friend in the UK as well who actually photographed a fairy in her back garden.
Oh my
And
goodness.
it's just this light being gorgeous. And I think there's more than one in the picture as well. I will try and dig it out for you.
If you can, that would
So
be
very,
awesome. If we could take a look at that, and if we get permission, we'll post it under the episode here as
yeah,
well
I'm
for
trying
people.
to
So
think. It's actually in one of my YouTube videos somewhere in a back, probably 2014 or something. But yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful picture. So they're very much part of the folklore, part of the tradition over there, whether it's the UK or Scotland or Wales, very much so. I've also seen 4-foot owl. God, while I've been out. That was in England as well. I saw a lot of things during the awakening that just shouldn't have been there, but were. So obviously that was my third eye sort of cracking open even further. And eventually you get used to it. But at the time it was like, oh my God, there's a 4-foot owl in the middle of the path. What's that doing there? A monk as well. I saw just a hooded monk just standing there in extremely long grass as well. I knew it wasn't real. I knew as soon as I saw it, it was spirit. But we actually, where I lived, was an old, across the road from us was an old disused railway system.
Okay.
Railway track that ran through farmland and everything. It was called the Rhubarb Triangle because all the farms grew rhubarb around there. But there was also an old castle as well, which was in ruins in the place where I lived as well. And I think he came from there, which was interesting. That was in a place called Rothwell in Leeds in West Yorkshire. So yes, I've seen a lot, seen a lot of crazy stuff over the years, and you I don't know if you agree with me, Yolanda. You do get used to it.
No.
It does. You don't.
No.
You don't get used to it.
And I don't know, Trevor. Would you consider? Do you think that you ever get used to actually having experiences?
in a way, because I think you could become more prepared for things to happen. But honestly, when they happen, no, you're not prepared at all for it. Sometimes they just happen so suddenly that you're not prepared. But at the same time, you are, because you can handle that experience better, I think, the more you have them.
Yes, I think that's what I'm trying to say. You can handle it better. When I first started having the experiences, I was a complete mushy mess in a corner somewhere, not even wanting to go out the house. Nowadays, yes, you can handle. You still get the wow moments. You still get the, oh my God, I can't believe that just happened. I heard some crazy noise outside my window last night, and I wasn't prepared for that. I did jump out of my skin and close the window really quickly. And we have a lot of this place where we have a lot of things disappearing and reappearing in the house. So you'll put the car keys down, they'll disappear, and then they'll appear exactly where you were bloody well looking for them. I vape, and the other day I'd lost my vape. I just bought a new one. I'm like, where is it? Give it me back. And then a couple of days ago, I was changing the bed. I completely stripped it down, put new sheets on it, everything else. And then I just happened to be sat on the bed looking at my phone. And then I looked next to my pillow, and there was my vape. And I knew damn well I just stripped it inside. Yeah, he's just staring at me. I was like, okay, thank you. You brought it back. Don't know where it went, but thank you for bringing it back. So I agree. I worded it wrong before. You get the wow moments, but you're better able to handle it after a while.
I think that's a part of the growing experience as well, because I think that's how spirit tells you there's more to learn, there's more out there you need to experience. So it gives you that,
Yeah.
I guess, push almost to keep going. So it's, yes, I understand what's happening and I can handle it. Yeah. So
It's almost like
give
a
me more.
training ground, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, it's almost like a training ground. It's like I think sometimes they do test you. It's like pushing your boundaries and going, okay, how do you deal with this? What are you going to do about this? And it does push the boundaries.
Okay, so Danny, rumor has it.
Mm.
Rumor has it now that you are here living in Ontario that you might have met a very hairy, tall gentleman. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Bob. His name's Bob. I've named him.
Okay. You've named him? Okay.
Named him Bob. Um, all right, where do we start with this? This is a long story. I've seen him 3 times. I've actually seen him 4 times, and they're different ones. Okay, so I have a friend, an English friend called, I'm going to call him Jack, as I have done on a couple of other podcasts, just for his own privacy. He's an English guy, and he owns about 300 acres out in Bobcaygeon Way. He's literally built these little hobbit houses on his land. I mean, full on hobbit houses made from cow dung, timbers. They're amazing. They're absolutely friggin' amazing. It's like walking into some sort of Lord of the Rings type place. He's very much connected to the land. The guy's in his 70s and he goes hikes the Appalachian Mountains, or he hikes around Quebec and back again, and cycles. And I think his land gives him energy. I think there's a very strong earthy energy there, which just keeps him fit and healthy. Totally off grid. Anyway, I met him through a few of my other friends back in 2022, I think. So the first time I saw Bob, or Sasquatch, and I did believe in Sasquatch, but I never expected. Sasquatch he probably does exist in the UK, but I'd never heard about him. I'd heard about I can't even say the word, the abominable snowman. I would say the word. I'd heard about him. I'd never really heard of Sasquatch or Bigfoot. So anyway, I was down there in 2022. There was probably about 5 of us. We were all having a get together. And Jack said, let me walk you all through the woods. I can do a big loop, couple of kilometers walk. Let's go do a loop. So we did. There was a lot of structures in the woods. So there was a lot of I know that we walked through, when they take one tree limb, stick, branch, when they take one branch and they bend it right over into like the tunnel. I remember walking through 3 of those in succession and sort of looking back on them going, did you do that, Jack? And he's like, no. And now Jack knows that Sasquatch is out there on his land, but he's never seen him. He sees him out the corner of his eye. He's aware of him, but he's never seen them full on or anything. So anyway, we'd walk through these branches. Again, I've got pictures all over the place of them. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And I'm looking at the ends of the branch. These are not simple branches that have been bowed over by the weather. They're actually tied into the other side. They're either jammed into another tree or under another branch, or they're deliberately like they are. And I remember turning around and looking behind me, and I'm going to do the English thing, about a football field length away from me, behind us, was a Sasquatch. And he was just stood next to a tree. I couldn't see him clearly. I could see it was a Sasquatch. I could see the outline. It was very black. It just looked like a dark shadow. But by the size of it, I knew exactly what it was. And I said to Jack, I said, there's a Sasquatch behind us. And now I wasn't particularly bothered because he was so far behind us and he wasn't moving. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. There's a Sasquatch. He's miles away. And that was the first time that I saw him. Now, when we had done the walk, we were all going to get dinner around the campfire and everything. So Jack's suggestion, and we were all staying overnight, so Jack's suggestion was we all go off to the little hobbit houses we were all staying in, respectfully, and just have a break before we come back for dinner. So that's what we did. Mine was the furthest hobbit house. Mine was sort of in the field, and directly behind me was the tree line of the woods. So I went into the hobbit house, had a little wander around, sat down for a bit, had a wash, whatever. Came to leave the hobbit house and it was locked from the outside and I couldn't get out. So it's like, no, you're not coming out. Now this hobbit house door is a typical rounded piece of wood, several inches thick. There is a physical iron bolt on the inside to lock it when you close it from the inside, but there's also a physical bolt on the outside of the door as well. So somebody would have to come over and physically lock me in to do this. Everybody else is in their little, nobody's locking me in anywhere as a joke. I have to call Jack and say, I'm locked in. Can you come and get me out? So he comes over and unlocks the door. And that was sort of my first experience there. And again, nobody's going to lock me in or anything like that. It's just nuts. So the next time I was out, and I've been over sort of more than a few times, and sometimes I'll go over there and nothing happens. So it's not like every single time that I go over there. So the next time that I went over that something happened was around March 2023, less than a year in between the two things. This time when I went over, things were pretty, my partner was diagnosed with cancer. He was extremely sick. He was under chemo, he was all the rest of it. And it had gotten to, I needed a break, basically. I just needed a night away. I needed to meditate. I needed to just calm down. This was just before all the major treatment started with him. And I was like, right, I'm just going to have one night away because I know I'm not going to get another one away. So I'd gone over there just for peace and quiet, just to try and collect myself and build some strength. So it was March. It was still cold. I think there was still bits of snow on the ground. Winter hadn't properly gone away yet. And I didn't stay in the same hobbit house that I'd stayed in last time. I stayed in one that was closer to where Jack is. So another cute little hobbit house. I go in there. Next to the door, if you look, there is a window in the door which is shaped like an eye. Next to the door in this particular hobbit house, it's just shaped like an almond eye. It's gorgeous. And if I look out of that window, I can see onto the fields, and then way off in the distance I can see that tree line which is next to the hobbit house I originally stayed in. So I got there in the afternoon. I'm looking out of that window and I can see what looks to me like a pair of headlights, car headlights, next to the tree line, sort of way, we're talking a couple of football fields away now, but I can see these two headlights. I'm like, why is there a car there? What is that? I couldn't figure it out, but I was also not in a mentally, I wasn't bothered. I was just like, oh, what is that? I can't figure it out. Don't care. I just want some peace. So I saw them in the daytime. Nighttime comes. I've got the little log fire going. I've meditated. I'm pulling angel cards. I'm doing all sorts of things. Off to bed probably about 9 o'clock at night. It was about 11 o'clock. I was fast asleep. I suddenly got this voice in my head, extremely loud. Get up now, go to the window. Go to the window now. I was like, okay. Yeah, that voice. I didn't question it. I jumped straight out of bed. I went straight to that beautiful almond-shaped window. Everything is now completely black outside. There's no street lights. We're completely off grid. I look out of that window. Those two lights that I thought were maybe car headlights, couldn't figure it out. They're still there, really bright because it's dark. The moment I look out of that window, they shoot up into the air together, go really, really fast.
Oh, wow.
Above the tree line. And then they suddenly just like come down at like a 40-degree angle to the left of what, so they go whoosh, whoosh. And as they come down, they go into the woods somewhere, and the entire woods just light up just for a couple of seconds. It was amazing, incredible, crazy, everything else. I didn't know what to think about it. I figured it was, what did I figure it was? A UFO? Some sort of
That's
or
probably where I would have gone. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, what on earth was that? I think, did I just say a UFO? What the hell? And then I go straight back to bed and just go back to sleep as if. So again, there's experiences I've had with Sasquatch or these things that I don't know if they can put thoughts in your head or make you calm or make you, because it's like, who sees something like that and then just goes, cool, that was really cool, and then goes back to bed.
Probably someone that's seen a fairy before.
Maybe.
Well, there are reports of Sasquatch being telepathic, so there are reports of them speaking in your mind. You can hear them talking. They talk to you that way, so that is one report. And there is also reports of other things happening, like people seeing orbs of light around them. Some people think they are originally orbs of light or energy, and that's how they manifest. So it could have been them as well.
Yeah, I'm beginning to think that was either them manifesting into the woods or maybe it was some sort of portal opening or something, which I've sort of come to realize since. But yeah, so that was amazing. Whew, okay, later on in 2023, so we've gone from March, that was March, then we go into September 2023. Friend of mine came over from the UK, and she's the one who sent me the photo of the fairy. So she's very spiritual, she's very psychic, and one of the first things I said was, you've got to come and see these hobbit houses, you've got to come meet Jack. And I told her all about, I've seen Sasquatch. Anyway, we went out there just for an afternoon. She was only here for a little bit, so we were like trying to cram everything into this holiday. So I took her out there, met Jack. He's like, jump in the truck, we'll drive around to all the hobbit houses, show them off, which is what we did. Now, in the centre of one of the fields, now Jack has done this. I don't think they were originally there, and I don't know how the hell he did it. But there is a massive, massive boulder in the middle of this field, and it's got like three smaller boulders underneath it, like holding it up. It looks like a giant stone table.
Okay.
It's flat on the top. I think because he's English, I don't know if he thought it would look like Stonehenge or something. He just thought he put it there a long time ago. But you know what I mean? It was like, I don't think there's anything weird going on or sacrificing or anything like that. It's just he's put it there as, and we all went over to it because he said, let's go put our hands on this stone, all three of us. Let's go see if we can feel the energy. And it's September, it's a beautiful day, it's really hot. We go and put our hands on this stone, slab, boulder. The stone itself is really, really hot from the sun. We all put our hands on it. And again, Jack doesn't see stuff, he senses stuff. So me and my friend Lisa, we've got our hands on it along with Jack. And as I close my eyes, all I can see is like blue and teal and these swirling, beautiful colours, almost like a portally thing going swirling in my head. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool energy. I opened my eyes. We're in the middle of the field. The tree line of the woods is going right round the field. I look straight ahead of me to another part of the tree line as it's curved round. We're now half a football field away from the tree line. And there's Bob, there's Sasquatch. And he stood in between two trees. And as I looked at him, he's got his arms up like this. He's like side on like this to me. And as I look at him, he goes like that and tries to duck down. But he literally only like ducked his head a bit. So it was like the most pathetic, I'm trying to hide sort of gesture. He just bent his knees a little bit and went like that. And he was side on, and he'd put his foot forward and gone like that. And I looked at Lisa and I didn't tell her. I said, can you see what I can see? She went, there's a Sasquatch there. He's just taken a step forward and he's just tried to duck. She saw exactly the same thing. Exactly. And I went, okay. And as she said it, and we looked again, he was gone. He just disappeared. Just completely gone. I didn't see him disappear. He was just there 1 second, gone the next. And we were like, hey, that was really cool. Cool, let's go and look at another Hobbit house. And we wandered off. And that was it. I do get scared at one point, which I'll tell you about. But up until then, it's been, I felt very privileged and I felt very thankful and I felt very special to be able to, that gets me emotional, to see something like that. It is huge.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. How do you feel now that you have had these experiences that, let's be honest, not many people have? Like, it's very selective, I think, who these entities allow you to see them. So how do you feel now after you've had those experiences?
I feel extremely blessed, extremely thankful. I haven't quite, I'm a Libra. I always want to sort of take things apart and put them back together and try and work out logically why did I see it? Why? What's the scientific thing behind this? And there isn't one. I can't figure that out other than I just feel completely blessed to it. You know, I've heard all the stories about hunters in the woods and they're getting chased and bluff charged and this, that. There's none of that. So it's completely different. So yeah. Later on, I don't know if is there anything else you want to ask about any of that before I carry on?
No. I'm enjoying the story.
Okay.
Well, we can switch topics then now. Let's go back on.
I still got more Bob.
Oh, more Bob. Let's continue on then.
Bob's not finished.
Let's not go.
Bob's not finished.
Bob doesn't stop.
Oh God, Bob didn't stop. Later on again in 2023, I got locked in again. Had to phone Jack, come and get me out. He decided, and I said to why do they keep locking me in? What's going on here? Then he decided to come out and tell me that the particular Hobbit house, my favourite one, which is the one I stayed in first, he thinks it's on a portal. I was like, oh, okay, that would make sense. And then he turned around and he said, it's the kids that are locking me in. It's the little Sasquatch that are locking me in. It's not, parents aren't too happy about it. I was like, okay. So there was that. October 2023 comes. So this again is not long after I'm at home, taking over a lot of jobs from my partner with him being sick. So I'm out blowing leaves on our front lawn. And I suddenly got the mind speak. I suddenly got, there's a gift for you at the Hobbit house. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Got down there a couple of weeks later. I imagined when they said it to me, I just thought, and I'd done a lot of research in between. Obviously, I've been watching Bigfoot Society and whatever, and learning about them because I wanted to know more about them. So I thought, oh, maybe he's left me a rock or a bone or something. Anyway, got back to the Hobbit house a couple of weeks later, and how do I explain this? So Jack lives next to a farm, which is full of cows. They rear cows. The cows are allowed to wander through Jack's land. So you'll go to the Hobbit house and you've got cows licking the windows and stuff like that in the morning. It's a very abundant sort of place. So the farmer next door had gone to Jack and said, I've got a digger, a hoe. I've hired it. I've got it for the rest of today. Do you want it using on your land? Is there anything that you need a hole digging for? Jack turned around and said, I've got dowsing rods. Let's see if we can find some water. So he gets his dowsing rods up. There's a fresh spring, underground spring of water right next to the Hobbit house that I stay in. So this farmer's got the hoe, digs the hole. Jack's found it with his dowsing rods, sorts it out. There's suddenly a fresh spring water underground there. On the same day that I got the mind speak through of Sasquatch or Bob saying, there's a gift for you at the Hobbit house.
Oh, wow.
So that was pretty wild. The synchronicity with that, it was like, wow. So did Sasquatch give the farmer some sort of nudge to take the hoe over to find the water? That was huge. That was pretty huge.
Do you think you have any like courting or psychic connection? Because you're feeling that in a completely different. This is your location to Jack's Hobbit homes. It's a couple hours. So, like, do you think there's some sort of psychic connection between the two of you now?
I think there's something going on for definite. Yeah, definitely. I don't think it's all the time, obviously, but I think there is some sort of connection, and why they've connected with me, I don't know, or whether it's just that I can pick up on them, and it's just part of my ability. And I know what you mean, but it's like, wow.
Okay, now, do you think that that type of courting exists with others? So maybe with other entities or with past clients or with family and friends. Do you think that's something that happens in terms of like a paranormal experience? Like we often hear about, parents maybe know when their child is in danger, although there's no physical communication. So do you think you've got that connection with Bigfoot? Do you think you have it with some of the other entities or with other humans as well?
Yeah. I mean, we all go through, we need to do cord cutting, or we need to break cords with other people that are not serving us and things like that. And I think that we do have, twins always have a connection. They always know what one's doing, or if one has an accident or one. So there is a connection there, but I don't understand why yet.
Okay.
And maybe I probably never will understand what that cord would be. And I think it is with other people. I'm not the only one to experience Sasquatch. So the other people that experience, they've obviously got a connection there as well. But what makes a Sasquatch decide to appear to one person and not another, or communicate with one person and not another. I don't know. But there's obviously, whether it's our frequency, our DNA, I don't know what it is, or just our psychic abilities. I don't know.
It's very.
But it is really, really interesting. The last of because I've seen him like 3 times. So going over to, I've got a little list here of it all written down. So I'd got the water springs again, and then October
Danny,
of last year.
Is this the toilet story?
Yes.
Okay.
The outhouse
it's
story.
My favorite one. It is my favorite.
Yeah, how to make a complete fool of yourself online. Here we go. Yeah. So the last time I saw him, so we've gone from like a couple of football fields away to a football field to half a football field. The last time I saw him was October last year, which was the last time that I was down at the Hobbit house. I had the dogs with me. I have 2 dogs. I'd come down to the Hobbit house. I think I'd got some shopping. I was going to stay a couple of days, and put the dogs in the Hobbit house. Went out to the car, got some shopping, went and put it back in the Hobbit house. Came out again, and as I'm coming out of, how do I explain this? You come out the Hobbit house door. To the left of me is a big wood shed, which is right in line with that wood line, and then ever so slightly behind me, but still next to the Hobbit house, is an outhouse. So I walk out of the Hobbit house. I'm at that slight angle going towards my car, which is next to the wood shed. I've got the outhouse here. And as I'm walking out there, I look to my left, and there he stood right next to the outhouse. So I am 15, 20 foot away from him. And he's stood there. Now, he's, as far as I could figure out, he's about 8 to 10 foot tall. He was blacker than black. He was coal black, dark. It was just ridiculously black. The sun was above him. It was the afternoon. There was a slight blurriness to him. I didn't want to look at his face. I don't think I could fully make out his face because of where the sun was placed, because it was literally above his head. As I was looking at him, and I looked at him, and because he was so tall, and he's big, he's got the big shoulders, he's very athletic. He looked a little bit different from the one that we'd seen when we were stood at the stone. That one I could see silver on him. This one looked, I almost got the feeling he was younger, like an adolescent. He was more athletic, but he was still friggin' huge. So I look to the left, I see him. I'm literally staring around his chest area. So I can see his nipples. I can see the hairs on his chest, the fur on his chest. And I'm staring at him. I've done Sasquatch research, and I know that you're not supposed to stare at them. But it was almost a hypnotic. I could not tear my eyes away from him. And again, I wasn't staring at his face, it was around chest area. And I'm staring at him, and at the same time, I'm talking like a completely insane woman at this point. And I'm like, oh, hi. I didn't expect to see you here. I was just going to the car for my shopping, and it's a beautiful day, and I am rabbiting on because I don't know what else to do. And I'm staring at him, and then I'm saying, oh my God, I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to stare at you. So I managed to tear my gaze away from him. I know that's disrespectful. I don't mean that. Then my eyes go straight back to him. And then I tear them away again. I do this about 3 times, all the time, just like speaking like I'm just making the most ridiculous statements. Oh, it's a nice day, and it's really nice to see you. And you could have called before you were coming, something. And I was frozen as well in where I was stood at that moment. I was frozen. I couldn't move. I found the will to move, and I started to just backstep back towards the Hobbit house door, at the same time going, I'm just going to go back in here. Again, it was lovely to see you, and thanks for coming by, but I'm just going to go step back. I need to go see the dogs. I did feel fear for a moment when that was happening. It was the pit in my stomach, primal fear that I felt at that point when I was frozen and gabbing on. There was fear, and I backed up very slowly back towards the Hobbit house. Again, I glanced over and he'd gone. He'd disappeared again. And I got back into the Hobbit house, and I think I paced up and down in there for God knows how long, going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. What the hell? So that was the biggie. That was the biggie.
I love it.
And I love it. Where we go from here, I don't know.
Well, you're going to take me with you, and I am going to pat Bigfoot. That's what's happening.
Yeah. You and I can each book a Hobbit house and each take a house and see what happens.
Yeah. So you guys just need to tell everybody where my body is after I go pat Bigfoot. I think that's what we're going to do.
Yeah. Gonna tell everybody where we are just in case.
Just in case.
But yeah, that was the last big thing. Now, obviously, it's winter, and I also left him some peanut butter out before I left last time. And I got pictures of it afterwards. I went back, completely cleaned out in the same place that I put it. The jar had been unscrewed. The jar itself, the label had been taken off. The peanut butter, it looked like it was whistle clean. Looked like it had gone through the dishwasher.
Very nice.
It wasn't a raccoon. There was no scratches. There was no teeth marks. There was nothing. No, I did fill it up again, and the only thing I could find was popcorn. And the next time I found that, it had been chewed through. Okay. So I know that a mouse or a raccoon, whatever, an animal had tried to get in it. But when the peanut butter, no, there was nothing else that could have opened that and cleaned it in the way it had been. So that was amazing. And I feel like they're not there in the winter. I don't know why I feel that, but I just feel like they're not there in the winter. So I'm going to go back with you in spring.
It's my famous last words.
Oh yeah, I'm not going back on my own now. You're coming with me.
Okay.
And I don't know what I feel blessed. I feel so lucky. And I've also been there and heard the metallic sounds in the woods as well. No, I've never heard Sasquatch. I've never heard him howl or scream or grunt or make a noise, but I've heard the metallic sound once that I've heard people mention before.
Can you describe it a little bit to see what it sounded like to you? What was it actually sounded like?
It sounded like an enormous metal door being opened and scraping on metal. Just this enormous, it lasted 3 or 4 seconds, but that's what it sounded. Yeah, just metallic, metal on metal scraping, but extremely loud. There is nothing in the woods that can make that noise. There's nothing that I can think of that can make that noise. And I heard it, and okay, time to go back to the Hobbit house. And at the same time that happened, the woods went quiet. There was no crickets, there was no birds, there was no sound of wind.
Yeah, a lot of people in the field call that the Oz effect. That's the name they call for the deafening silence that you hear before an encounter. And a lot of people do report that as well. They hear metallic sounds before an encounter. So some people say that is like the portal sound opening up. And that's making that kind of metallic type sound is a portal opening and they're coming through. So you get that deafening silence, you hear weird sounds, and then you have the experience. So
that's fun.
And all of this is in the daytime. Seeing him has been in the daytime. I've never needed to. I wouldn't even go into the woods at night in dark. But this is something that's just happening in the daytime in full daylight. So I don't know where it's leading. I don't know what the outcome I say, is he going to come and have tea with us? Is there a point where I can communicate with him? And I almost feel like that's the way it might be heading if he's getting closer and closer.
That's what it sort of sounds like. He is progressing closer and closer towards you and being more comfortable with you, because you're not there all the time, like Jack, the property owner, is. But at least maybe you're the one with a connection to him more. So he is probably seeing how far he can push it.
Yeah, being 15, 20 foot, that was pushing it a little bit. But again, he wasn't screaming, he wasn't making a noise, he was just stood there, which was good. So
it wasn't an aggressive encounter, so that's good. Yeah, you don't want to start throwing stuff at you or knocking on the house or screaming at you all night. So
no, I don't want any of that. And it doesn't really feel like it's going to be any of that if it progresses further. And I'd like Yolanta to come with me. I'd like to know what you pick up as well. Because
and maybe one day we can get Trevor out too, because he's got all sorts of fun stuff. He's done all sorts of things.
My own experiences with Sasquatch as well, but that was in Northern Ontario, so different region, but I did have my experiences there, and some of it was sort of on the paranormal side. I can tell you off air once we're finished. I can go through quickly, but I don't want to include it in the show here. But great, thank you so much for being on here and talking to us a little bit about your psychic abilities that you have, your journey through that, and your experiences developing it, and especially your stories about Bob. They're really interesting. So.
And Daniella, if anybody wants to find you, where can we find you online?
So my website is www.huskylight.com. Husky as in the dog, HUSKY, light.com. I am on YouTube, and that is under Husky Light Tarot, or at Husky Light 1510, I think. Or you can email me if you need to or would like to, especially if anyone else has got experiences as well, because we're all learning about this. If anyone wants to talk, and that's DaniellaPsychic@gmail.com.
And that's because when you're not talking Bigfoot, you are a psychic medium and a tarot reader.
I am. Do a lot of the health and wellness affairs around Ontario and YouTube, and a lot of private psychic medium readings and tarot readings. And I do help people a lot as well with their awakenings. So those of you that have started seeing 1111 and getting all the synchronicities and the glitches in the matrix and seeing stuff, I help people get through that and develop that too. So
excellent. Thank you.
Miss one of our episodes? Replay our episodes on Rhode Island Broadcasting. Show your support for Haunting Live by supporting our broadcast partner, Rhode Island Broadcasting. Find them on YouTube.